Nah. My brother got promoted to senior partner at his firm on a Thursday. I found out on Facebook, like everyone else. He didn't call me. He didn't text me. He posted a photo of himself in front of the firm's logo, my sister-in-law standing next to him in a dress I recognized immediately, the one I helped her pick out for a special occasion 3 months ago. She'd told me it was for a client dinner. I sat there in my apartment in Columbus, staring at my phone screen, doing the mental math I'd been doing for 6 years. 6 years of wire transfers, of just this once, of telling myself that family takes care of family. I put my phone face down on the coffee table and went to make tea. That was the night I finally understood something I'd been refusing to see for a very long time. My name is Audrey. I'm 32 years old, and for most of my adult life, I have been my family's financial plan. It didn't start dramatically. It never does. It started with a phone call my first year out of college when my mom said my dad's contracting business had a slow quarter and could I help cover the mortgage for a month. I was 23. I was making $41,000 a year at a marketing firm in Columbus. I said yes, because of course I said yes. He was my dad. It was 1 month. Except it wasn't 1 month. The slow quarter turned into 2, then became a pattern that somehow never fully resolved. My brother Elliott had just finished law school and was still building his client base. My sister-in-law Renata was pregnant with their first. Everything cost money and I was the one who had some, so the calls came to me. I want to be careful here because I don't want to make myself sound like a saint. I wasn't. I said yes because it made me feel needed. I said yes because I'd always been the responsible one. And there's a strange satisfaction in being the person everyone can count on. I see that now. I couldn't see it then. What I also couldn't see was the invisible line being drawn, the one that put me on one side as the provider and everyone else on the other side as the family. My dad's business eventually stabilized. Elliott made partner, junior partner first, then senior. Renata went back to work. My parents refinanced their house. By every reasonable measure, the financial emergency had passed. The calls didn't stop, they just changed shape. Elliott needed help with a down payment on a lake house because the interest rate window was closing. My mom wanted to redo the kitchen because she'd been looking at the same cabinets for 20 years. Renata's sister was visiting from out of town and could I cover a dinner because everyone was going. There were holiday gifts for clients. There was a family vacation to the Outer Banks. There was always something, and somehow the call always came to me. I gave because I told myself I had more. I gave because saying no felt like abandonment. I gave because every time I hesitated, someone found a way to make me feel like I was being selfish for having a savings account while they had needs. What I never got, not once in 6 years, was an invitation to belong. I don't mean that in an abstract way, I mean it concretely. Family dinners I'd hear about afterward. Decisions made without consulting me. Plans built around my money and not around me. The lake house that Elliott bought with my help? I've been there twice. Both times I drove up alone, stayed one night and felt like a guest. But I kept going, because it was family. My parents' anniversary was in June, 35 years. It's a real milestone and I genuinely wanted to celebrate it. I asked my mom in April what she was thinking. Dinner, a party, a trip somewhere. She said Elliott and Renata were handling it. I said that was great. I asked if I could help, contribute, be part of the planning. She said she'd let me know. She didn't let me know. I found out about the party in May, not from my mother, but from my cousin who lives in Raleigh and had gotten an invitation in the mail. She texted me asking if I needed a ride since we'd both be driving up. I told her I hadn't gotten my invitation yet. There was a long pause on her end. I called my mom. She was warm, casual, completely unbothered. She told me it was going to be a smaller gathering, just close family. I said I was close family. She said she knew that of course, but Elliott and Renata had taken charge of the guest list and they'd made some decisions about keeping it intimate. I sat very still after I hung up. Then I called Elliott. His voice had that tone, the one lawyers develop when they're about to explain something to you that they need you to accept without arguing. He said it wasn't personal. He said they decided to keep it to the people who were most involved in the day-to-day lives of mom and dad. He said I lived 2 hours away and wasn't as present, and it wasn't fair to compare. I asked him who was paying for the venue. Silence. He said that wasn't the point. I said I thought maybe it was. He told me I was being difficult. He said I had a tendency to make everything about money, which was ironic in a way I don't think he fully appreciated. He told me that Mom and Dad wanted an intimate celebration and that I should respect their wishes. I asked him to put Mom on the phone. He said she was busy. I hung up. That night I did not cry, which surprised me. I thought I would. I sat on my couch in Columbus for a long time and felt something I didn't have a name for. Not quite anger. Not quite sadness. More like the sensation of a fog finally lifting and being able to see, clearly and for the first time, the exact shape of the thing I'd been inside. I had been paying for a family that didn't actually include me. The party was on a Saturday in early June. Elliott had booked a private room at a restaurant outside Raleigh. A nice place, white tablecloths, the kind of spot that requires a reservation months in advance. I know this because I found it on Instagram after my cousin mentioned the name. The week before the party, I made 2 decisions. The first was that I was done sending money, not done in a dramatic I'm cutting you off way. Just done in the way you're done when you finally accepted a true thing about a situation. The bank of Audrey was closed. Not out of spite. Out of self-preservation. The second decision was about that Saturday. I had accumulated a lot of airline miles. I'd been saving them vaguely, the way you save something when you can't admit to yourself that you deserve it. I'd always told myself I'd use them when there was a good reason. I couldn't think of a better one than this. I booked a flight to Nashville. Not Paris, not abroad. Nashville. Because I'd always wanted to go, because a friend from college had been inviting me for 3 years, and because it was something completely mine. Something no one in my family knew about. No one had opinions about. No one would show up at. I texted my friend Kelsey on a Tuesday. I said, "Remember when you said I should just come already? I'm coming. This weekend." She sent back about 11 exclamation points. I packed a bag on Friday night. The party was the next day. I didn't tell anyone in my family I was leaving. It occurred to me while I was folding a sundress into my carry-on that this was the first trip I'd taken in 4 years that wasn't for a family event or to help someone move or to show up somewhere because someone needed me there. I was going somewhere because I wanted to go. The flight was early Saturday morning. I sat at the gate with a coffee and watched the sun come up through the terminal windows and felt, very quietly, like myself. Nashville was good to me. Kelsey picked me up from the airport and we got breakfast at a place with biscuits the size of my face. And she didn't ask me anything heavy. She just talked to me like a person, and I remembered what that felt like. We walked around East Nashville in the afternoon. I took pictures. I'd gotten back into photography a couple of years ago just for myself, just because I liked it, and I found good light everywhere. Old houses with peeling paint. A mural of a woman with her hands raised. Kids on a front stoop. I got absorbed in it the way you get absorbed in something that asks nothing of you. That evening, Kelsey and I got dinner at a honky-tonk with a live band, and I ordered a drink I'd never had before, and we stayed out later than I'd stayed out in years. At some point I checked my phone. I posted a few photos to my Instagram that afternoon. Nothing staged, nothing pointed, just the mural, the light, a shot of my drink at dinner. I hadn't thought about it. I just posted because I was happy, and that's what you do. I had 47 notifications. This was unusual. I'm not someone with a large following. I post occasionally. 47 notifications meant something had happened. What had happened was that several people who were at my parents' anniversary party had seen my posts, and they had questions. My cousin, the one from Raleigh, had screenshot my photos and shown them to people at the table. According to what I pieced together later, someone, I think one of my parents' longtime friends, had said out loud, at the table, "Is that Audrey? Where is she? Why isn't she here?" Someone else had asked my mom directly. My mom, from what I understand, had no good answer. Renata, my sister-in-law, apparently tried to explain something about how I'd had a prior commitment, but the problem was that no one at that table knew I hadn't been invited, and when it became clear that my absence wasn't a scheduling conflict but a deliberate exclusion, the mood shifted. My parents' friends are a generation that finds this sort of thing deeply uncomfortable. They didn't leave early, but the evening was not what it was supposed to be. I didn't know any of this until Sunday. On Sunday morning, my phone started ringing. My mom called first. She was not apologetic, not immediately. She was flustered, which is its own thing. She said she hoped I'd had a good time wherever I was. I said I had. She said it would have been nice to know I was going away for the weekend. I said it would have been nice to be invited to the party. She didn't respond to that directly. Then Elliott called. He was not flustered. He was in the particular register I've come to know well, annoyed. He said my Instagram posts had made things awkward. I asked him how posting photos of my own weekend in my own city had made things awkward for a party I wasn't invited to. He said I knew how. I said I genuinely didn't. He said people were asking questions and I had embarrassed the family. I pointed out that I'd been at a music venue in Nashville eating good food with my college friend, and if that had embarrassed the family, I wasn't sure what to tell him. He called me selfish. I want to stop here because selfish is a word that used to work on me. For years, the suggestion that I was being selfish was enough to make me doubt myself, apologize, give in, transfer money. Selfish was the accusation that kept the whole arrangement running. This time, it didn't land. I said, Elliott, I have given this family a significant amount of money over the past 6 years. I have never once asked to be paid back. I have shown up when people needed me. I was not invited to my own parents' anniversary party, a party held at a venue I helped make financially possible. I went on a trip instead. I'm not sure what about that makes me the selfish one. He hung up. Renata texted me that afternoon. Her text was longer, more careful. She said she understood why I was hurt and that she hoped we could move past it. She said family wasn't about keeping score. I thought about the 6 years I'd spent not keeping score while everyone else definitely was, just not in my favor, and I didn't respond. My dad called on Sunday evening. My dad almost never calls. He's a quiet man, a good man in many ways, and I think he knew more than he let on most of the time. He didn't apologize exactly, but he said he wished I'd been there. He said it hadn't been the same without me. I told him I wished I'd been invited. He said he knew. We stayed on the phone for a few more minutes, not saying much, and then we said goodnight. That was the closest anyone came to an apology, and the weeks after, a few things happened that I didn't orchestrate and didn't expect. Elliott had apparently posted something on his personal Facebook the Monday after the party, something vague but pointed about family members who make everything a drama. I was not tagged, but anyone who knew us both knew who he meant. The problem was that Elliott's Facebook is connected to his professional profile in a way he'd probably forgotten about, and one of the partners at his firm saw the post. I know this because Elliott's assistant, who is also a friend of mine, mentioned it in passing to someone who mentioned it to me. Apparently there was a conversation about professional conduct and social media. Nothing serious, but uncomfortable. I didn't make that happen. I want to be clear about that. I also didn't make it happen that my parents' neighbor, a woman who'd attended the anniversary dinner, ran into my mom at the grocery store the week after and said, unprompted, that she'd been so surprised not to see me there. Or that my mom's book club, several of whom follow me on Instagram, had apparently seen my Nashville photos and asked my mom the same question, with slightly raised eyebrows. My mother called me in mid-June. This call was different from the first one. She sounded smaller. She said she'd been thinking, and she wanted me to know she was sorry I felt excluded. I noticed the phrasing, sorry I felt excluded, not sorry for excluding me, but I let it go. Progress is progress. She also said, and this is the part I wasn't expecting, that Elliott and Renata had asked whether I might be willing to help with the down payment on a larger space they were considering. They wanted to be closer to my parents, more room for the kids. I said, Mom, I think that's something they'll need to figure out on their own. There was a pause. She said she understood. I don't know if she really did, but she didn't push it. I've been back to Columbus for the summer. I've been working on a project for a nonprofit that I actually care about. I've been taking more photos. I went to a farmer's market last weekend and spent 20 minutes talking to a man who grows heirloom tomatoes, and it was one of the better conversations I've had in months. I talk to my dad occasionally. He asks about work. I ask about his projects. We talk about the weather in the particular way that is actually about something else. It's not a perfect relationship, but it's an honest one. And right now, I'll take honest. I haven't transferred any money in 8 weeks. I haven't been asked to. I don't know what that means exactly. Maybe they're figuring it out. Maybe the ask is coming and they're just timing it. Maybe things actually shift when you stop being available in the way you've always been available. I'm not sure it matters which one it is. What I know is this. I went to Nashville on a Saturday morning because I wanted to go. I watched the sun come up through an airport window and felt like myself. I ate a biscuit the size of my face. I found good light in unexpected places and took pictures of it because no one needed me to do anything else that day. The morning I landed back in Columbus, I sat in my car in the parking garage for a few minutes before driving home. I thought about the word family and what I believed it meant for most of my adult life. I thought about the phone calls, the wire transfers, the feeling of being needed and the very different feeling of being wanted. I thought about how I'd confused those two things for a long time and how much that confusion had cost me. I also thought about the tomatoes and Nashville and Kelsey laughing at something across a table and the way good light falls on a painted wall in the late afternoon. I turned the key and drove home. The bank of Audrey is closed. I don't know what comes next. But for the first time in a long time, whatever comes next is going to be mine. I used to think the opposite of selfish was giving. I spent 6 years proving that to myself and to everyone around me. I gave when it was inconvenient. I gave when my own savings were thinner than I let on. I gave because I believed, genuinely believed, that this was what kept people together. That generosity was the thread, and if I held my end long enough, eventually everyone would pull in the same direction. What I understand now is that generosity without boundaries doesn't build connection. It builds expectation. An expectation, left unchecked, becomes entitlement so quiet and so complete that the people on the receiving end stop noticing it entirely. Elliott didn't think he was doing anything wrong when he told me the party was for close family. I don't think he experienced any dissonance at all. That's not cruelty, it's what happens when someone has never been asked to reckon with the cost of what they take. The cause of everything that followed wasn't my Instagram posts or my Nashville trip or anything I did that weekend. The cause was 6 years of an arrangement that only worked in one direction, and the moment I stopped maintaining my end of it, the whole structure became visible. That's how these things work. You can't see the shape of something you're inside. You only see it when you step out. What I had to learn, and I wish I'd learned it sooner, because it would have saved me a significant amount of money and a quiet, chronic loneliness I didn't even have a name for, is that intelligence isn't just about being capable. It's about being honest with yourself about what a situation actually is, not what you want it to be. I was smart enough to earn good money and manage it well. I wasn't smart enough for a long time to look clearly at where it was going and ask whether it was making my life better or just making me feel necessary. There's a difference between being needed and being valued. I know that sounds simple. It wasn't simple when I was living inside it. The integrity part, the part I'm most at peace with, is that I didn't blow anything up. I didn't send a long email. I didn't make a scene. I didn't post anything directed at my family or designed to embarrass them. I booked a flight to Nashville because I wanted to go to Nashville. Whatever happened at that dinner table happened because the truth was already there, and when enough people were in the same room, it just became impossible to avoid. That's not revenge. That's just what happens when you stop covering for something. Audrey didn't fight her way out of anything. She just quietly chose herself on a Saturday morning, packed a bag, and got on a plane. And it turned out that one small, private act of self-respect shifted everything. Not because she forced it to, but because she finally stopped preventing it from shifting. I think about her sometimes when I'm having a hard week, when saying no to something feels bigger than it should. I think about her folding a sundress into a carry-on at midnight and not explaining herself to anyone. I think about her finding good light on a painted wall and taking a picture of it just because she wanted to. That's not a small thing. That's actually the whole thing.